Also have my notepad here. We're talking about you cannot teach motivation. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. You cannot teach motivation, right? So I'm gonna start off with a little story time. Me personally, I'm an empath. And when I say that, I feel like a lot of times, or like most of my life, I've been like a healer. Sometimes I used to feel like I could see a person's growth, or I could see a person's potential. I could see a person's best aligned self before they were able to see it. And a lot of times, I feel like people would come to me to like vent or get some advice. And then so I became a type of person where I felt like I had to help them grow. I had to encourage them to grow. And then I would feel a little bit of maybe resentment or sadness when that person may have come back to me needing some more advice on the same situation that just hasn't changed. Like they haven't really done anything to change their situation, right? So I just say that story time to now cycle into what we're really talking about today. You cannot teach motivation, right? Um, it would take years of undoing psychological narratives that maybe they have been emboxed in or placed in throughout their life. They had a whole life, before they met you. You may have been their friend for 5 years, 3 years, 3 months. They still had a whole life before you. So they grew up within a household that conditioned them to kind of think a certain way or believe certain things about themselves. You might say, hey, you dance really well, or hey, you sing really well. But if they existed in a household where that gift, that special gift that they have within them, was not acknowledged or denied, of course they're going to deny themselves. It's hard to see the mirror if you've never really seen a mirror per se. If that hasn't been encouraged within your lifestyle. So just to say you cannot really teach motivation because it would just take a lot of as I said, undoing psychological narratives that have maybe held them hostage for most of their life. Also, we're all here to spiritually evolve in a specific way in this lifetime, meaning everybody has their own pace, everybody has their own time. It can get kind of easy, especially if you're within a circle of friends, to kind of compare your growth to their growth and kind of somebody had called it virtue mirror. Mirror your virtue against their virtues. I don't feel like it's fair to them, or it's not fair to really God, who's really guiding a lot of people's energies. Everybody evolves at a certain pace, and it's easier when they evolve on their own, when they awaken on their own. In class, when you raise your hand and then you put your hand down because you think that's not the right answer, and then that frequency, that thought leaves your head and goes to another person's head, and you're like, hey, I was just about to say that. It's because we're all connected, we're all kind of united per se, and when it is time for that answer, it is time for that answer. Nobody can stop that answer from coming through. So therefore, that person did have that answer because it was time for it no matter what. So if you didn't say it, it went to another person. So now to say when it's time for people to awaken, when it's time for people to evolve, it will be that time. You can't really force it or change it just by your simple words. You are but a human. You feel me? So yeah. Another part that I wanted to touch on, this really happens a lot with partners, right? I can see this a lot with partners. It's very common in relationships where you might have something that's, not really balanced, where one partner is maybe doing a bit better than another partner. And then that person ends up in a cycle of trying to motivate their partner, right? A lot of women might say, yeah, I'm trying to motivate my man to get a job. I'm trying to motivate him to do this, to do better. Like he should want better. He should want to do this, but he doesn't. And they end up in that cycle, right? But how to say, every soul, as I said, has their pace. Don't get frustrated trying to teach motivation because honestly, the truth is, hard truth, motivation isn't exactly real. I feel like motivation is as real as happiness, as sadness, as anger, as frustration. They are all real emotions, but they're very much fleeting. You cannot feel happiness forever. You can't feel anger forever, and you most definitely cannot feel motivation forever. A prime example: when I was growing up in my household, if me and my mom, she just did something that I didn't like, there was no apologies. It was more so dinner's ready. Not to normalize that or anything like that, but me, I was big in my pride. I wanted to stay angry throughout the entire dinner. I said, I'm not talking to her for the rest of my life. I packed my toys and everything, right? So there I'm eating dinner, but I couldn't stop. It was oxtail, rice and peas, and then we had some orange juice on the side. So I'm eating it mad. I'm eating it mad. And she goes, you're not gonna stay mad forever. And I kind of like try to hide a smile because you cannot stay angry forever. The same way you cannot stay happy forever, you cannot stay motivated forever. Motivation isn't really real. It's really the willingness to break bad habits and create discipline within good habits, right? For every good habit, there's a bad habit, right? So if you want to have good habits, right? If you want to have discipline, you have to break a lot of bad habits. For me personally, I'm not motivated every day, right? Some days I want to write poetry, some days I want to record, some days I want to sing, some days I want to dance, and then it's just like some days I just don't. Some days I just want to sit down and lay down, not say anything, not speak to anybody, and just be by myself. But it's more so breaking the bad habit. So a bad habit for me might be a lot of times I'll be like, all right, I'll be more productive once I take my nap, and then I take my nap, and then I realize I have to live a practical life, right? I have chores, I have laundry, I have to clean the bathroom. I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna put aside my creative pursuits because I have to live a practical life. So me breaking that bad habit would be saying, all right, I can't take my nap right now because I wanted to do this. So I can either nap or do these chores or do my artistic pursuits. I can't prioritize everything. So just to say that motivation isn't really, it's really about discipline. So you can't teach anybody motivation. It's like teaching somebody how to divide by zero. You can't do that. So therefore, what are you really teaching them? To them, it's kind of just like words you're saying, because again, they have to undo a lot of psychological narratives that have kept them kind of conditioned in this box, right? Another point I wanted to make is not your duty to save someone. You are not a savior. You can help them, you can try to encourage them, but you cannot teach motivation, right? By forcing a message that their soul is not exactly ready for, you end up sometimes stunting their growth, right? Because it's like they're not even receptive. Like it's like almost like you're nagging them to do something, or maybe it just sounds nice to hear. They treat it like entertainment, like all right, yeah, this sounds good, and then they don't really do that. So you kind of stunt their growth by not, separating yourself from them. Not from when you keep trying to save them, you kind of stunt their growth, right? Because they always have you to kind of depend on to kind of guide them the right way, right? So now, as I'm coming to the end of the episode, oh, wrong page. As I'm coming to the end of the episode, I want to have a call to action. I love to have call to actions because it's just not like I'm not telling you, hey, you're doing this wrong. It's more so how can we both grow together? Because when I'm speaking to you, I'm also speaking to me. You feel me? So one thing I want to say is try to save yourself. Try to save yourself. Do not save others. Teach yourself the lessons that you want to teach others. Don't let saving somebody else, don't make healing someone or trying to teach someone motivation be a scapegoat or a shape of escapism for not exactly saving yourself, for not guiding yourself towards your dreams. Yeah, allow people the space to self-soothe and to self-heal by being simply a holy witness. Somebody had said this before. Her name is Candace Love, Candyss Love, and she has a podcast with her husband Docs, and they were talking about holy witness and holy validation, which simply means to hold space for somebody, acknowledge their pain. You could say, "Wow, this is difficult," but not to kind of enable them to stay within that negative frequency of grief. Like, damn, that shouldn't have happened to you. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. You can be sorry for them, but you can't, how to say, let them come to you with the same situation and not really see some changed behavior, especially if this is your friend, this is somebody that you want in your continuous circle for 10, 15 years. You want those people to be like family. You can't, how to say, enable them by just simply not being a holy witness. You feel me? So if they ask for your help, right? If they're oop, speak English. If they're actually coming to you for your help, create boundaries. People might call it tough love, but as a friend, you shouldn't enable your friend to continue in a cycle of bad decisions that they. I feel like even when they come to you for your help, it's dishonoring your energy if they aren't applying what they asked for. It's almost like did you just want to hear yourself talk and just do the same thing that you've continuously done? And then you start to end up in your own karmic cycle of helping this friend. They don't really, move. They don't really change. And then they're stuck in their situation. So they're stuck in their own karmic cycle. And you are so much of an empath. You are so much trying to help this person heal and learn and grow that you end up in your own karmic cycle of it's just a big damn thing. You feel me? I kind of lost my words, lost my thought process, but I hope that y'all understand what I'm saying. Another point that I wanted to make, a call to action: continue to save yourself. The best lessons are taught by example. Are you being the change that you want to see? And a lot of times when you start to move at that frequency, you start to change certain things in your life, eliminate certain things that no longer adhere to the type of person that you want to be, you will see that a lot of people will follow suit. It's like an intimate relationship with God. You say, hey, God, this is what I want in my life. This is who I want to be. And you start doing active decisions. Therefore, you almost ask God to kind of filter out people that will stay with you, grow with you in this journey, and some people you might see leave. If you create a boundary with a friend and say, hey, I don't want you coming to me with this situation if you don't plan on changing. I feel like I've given you enough advice. And as my friend, I love you. And it hurts when you keep coming back with the same issue. You keep asking for my help, but you don't change. It feels almost like you don't respect me. And they might say, hey, you're taking things personal, you're sensitive, you're selfish. You might get all the things because their ego cannot, how to say, separate themselves from the times, all the times that you may have helped them, all the times that where you may have motivated them. And if your boundary makes them feel that type of way, they might come back later because they might be like, I'm gonna just vent to somebody else. But nobody has the same energy as you, right? So they might be like, damn, I can't vent to this person. So now I'm forced to self soothe. I'm forced to self heal or come back to you and respect the space. Maybe they won't change, but they won't share this with you because then you don't want to end up in their patterns per se, in their patterns of they keep coming to the same thing, they keep coming to you with the same thing, and the brain works on patterns. If I started rapping, if I started doing poetry, that's why a lot of people love rhyme schemes, because once we start, our brain starts to kind of adhere to that pattern, to that cycle. So your ears are arts, as the name of the podcast is. Your ears are art. Therefore, if somebody keeps coming to you with crayon, and every time they come with crayon, it's like it's almost diminishing your frequency, your energy. You kind of start to subconsciously feel bad about your growth. You feel bad about yourself improving because you look at your company, you look at your surroundings, you look at your environment, like, damn, this person isn't also growing with me. You start to virtue mirror a little bit. Am I really that good if I can't help my friends good? And you kind of feel bad about sharing, your accomplishments. You might have a new relationship, a new job, a new this, a new that, and then your partner, your friend, your connection is stuck in their same cycle. And maybe they might not give you the same support because you're so busy supporting where they are. You're so busy trying to teach them motivation. You cannot teach motivation, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, eventually, your paths would align once you start to align with what you need to do in this lifetime. But the best thing to do is to have boundaries and let people self soothe, let people self figure it out. You know what I'm saying? If we're talking about trauma, right, in life, and I don't want to be insensitive to people that have experienced, traumatic traumatic events that I haven't even been able to encompass in this lifetime, right? But I feel like all trauma isn't bad trauma per se, because what is the definition of trauma? An an event that makes you think differently, right? And it might be something as small as your mom says don't touch the iron and you touch the iron. That is a traumatic event for you because you know now not to touch that iron. So if you give your friend a boundary and you say, hey, don't come to me with this anymore, and this is your best friend, they're gonna look at you like, damn, my best friend just betrayed me, or whatever the case may be. It might be a traumatic event in their eyes, but now they are able to kind of show improved behavior because we're all helping towards each other's spiritual growth, which is my personal opinion. If you love somebody, you'll want to see them spiritually develop, but you do not have to be the person to spiritually develop them. You cannot teach motivation, which is the theme of the podcast. And yeah, that's really all I have to share. I hope something resonated with you. I hope that this wasn't just a ramble of talking me yapping. I hope that you can deepen your relationships, right? Because boundaries are a bridge. Conflict is a ladder. Boundaries are a bridge, not a wall. If people treat it like a wall, they're like, no, I don't want to take that bridge. I want to take that plane. Why don't you come here with that plane? It's like, no, this is the boundary I set here. I want you to only cross this bridge to come to me. It's like, how can I have you in my life and also feel safe? That's what I believe that boundaries are. So, yeah, apply those boundaries. You can't teach motivation, so boundaries for your soul and boundaries for the other person. But yeah, that's all I have for this episode. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever the case is. If you feel to, definitely if you feel to, please don't do anything that you don't want to do. Do not like and comment if you don't want to comment. You feel me? But yeah. Also, if you can, if you want to, can you please stream my art project, my album, my EP, whatever the case may be. It is named Closure under Selah, a Marvel Soul. And yeah, that's all I have. I'm going to end it off with this. I have my little outro. Until then, Till we talk again, please be safe. Love on yourself. Remember, you are what you eat. You are what you consume. Hence the title, Your Ears Are Art. Use your mind as a canvas. Let the type of energies you want in your life flow through you. Become one with it with your intentionality. Okay? All right. Until next time, baby.